All right, let's dive into a really intense prophecy from Isaiah chapter 5. It describes this absolutely unstoppable army summoned by God with just a hiss. And people have been debating what it means for centuries. We're going to break it down verse by verse from Isaiah 5, verse 26 through 30. So the prophecy in Isaiah 5, verse 26, kicks off with this wild image. God is calling a distant army to carry out his judgment. But what's so strange here is the method. It's not a loud trumpet blast, but a raised banner, an ensign, and a hiss. That's the big question, isn't it? An army called with a hiss? What is going on here? We're going to deconstruct this thing piece by piece to really get at the meaning behind these powerful symbols and figure out the historical context. Okay, so let's start with those two really strange signals from verse 26. They totally set the stage for everything else that's about to happen. First up, the ensign. Now, you gotta understand, this wasn't just any old flag. This was a divine call to arms. Picture a massive banner, raised on the highest hill you can see, visible for miles. It's an unmistakable signal, telling a huge army exactly where to gather. And then you have the second signal, the hiss, which, honestly, is even more fascinating. Commentators point out that this is likely a metaphor straight from beekeeping. A beekeeper could summon an entire swarm with a specific sound, like a whistle or a hiss. In the same way, God summons this entire army. The message here is huge. This invading force responds instantly to the quietest, most effortless command of his will. So the call has gone out. Let's move on to the next verses, because they paint a picture of a perfect, almost supernatural military force that has answered that call. Verse 27 gives us this portrait of an army that's in a state of, well, almost impossible readiness. They never get tired. They never stumble. They don't even need to sleep. It's this picture of just relentless, unstoppable forward momentum. And the power of this description is really in these small details. A soldier back then would loosen their girdle, their belt, to take a break and rest. And a broken latchet, basically a shoe strap, would bring a soldier's march to a dead stop. But Isaiah is saying that for this army, neither of those things ever happens. They never rest, and their equipment never fails. And verse 28 just keeps building on this idea. Their arrows are sharp, their bows are already bent and ready to fire, their horses' hooves are like flint, so hard and durable they spark when they hit the ground, and their chariot wheels, they move like a whirlwind. Every single one of these details is designed to scream absolute preparation, devastating power, and terrifying speed. Okay, so we've seen the mechanics, the perfect war machine. Now the prophecy shifts gears. It moves into this terrifying nature metaphor that makes the whole invasion feel even more primal and completely inescapable. In verse 29, the army's battle cry suddenly becomes the roar of young lions closing in on their prey. It's an image that's meant to trigger sheer terror. This is the finality of being caught by an apex predator. And that's really the heart of it, isn't it? Judah is the prey, and once they are captured, there is absolutely no hope of rescue. None shall deliver it. The imagery here signifies total and complete defeat. Now let's get to the final verse of this section, verse 30. This is where we see the absolutely devastating aftermath of this unstoppable invasion. So that roar of the army, of the lions, now it merges with another overwhelming, chaotic sound, the roaring of a stormy sea. And when the prophecy shifts its focus to the land of Judah itself, the view is just one of utter, complete despair. So you see, this isn't just a military defeat. The darkening of the light in the heavens, that signifies a complete loss of all hope. It's total desolation. It signals the end of an entire era for the nation, a time of deep grief and sorrow that's going to last for decades. This whole prophecy is so specific, so terrifying, it just begs the question, who was this unstoppable army? For centuries, this has been a major point of debate. To find the most likely answer, we can actually turn to another prophet who was writing around the same time, Jeremiah. And his writings give us a critical piece of the puzzle. And there it is. In Jeremiah 27, God explicitly names Nebuchadnezzar, the king of Babylon, as my servant. He's the instrument chosen to carry out this very judgment and to rule over all the surrounding nations, which included Judah. Now, over the years, several powers have been suggested. Some say it was the Assyrians, and they did invade, but they never fully conquered Jerusalem. Others suggest the Romans, who came from the ends of the earth, but that was centuries later. When you line everything up, especially with that massive clue from Jeremiah, the strongest case by far is for the Babylonians under King Nebuchadnezzar. It's also really important to make one final distinction here. That word ensign actually shows up again later in Isaiah, but it's used for a completely different purpose. The ensign here in chapter 5 is a banner for destruction. But look here, in Isaiah chapter 11, this later ensign does the exact opposite. It's a banner that's raised to assemble the scattered people of Israel, to bring them back for restoration, not destruction. It's such a powerful contrast, right? The same exact symbol being used for both judgment and for mercy. When you really step back and look at it, Isaiah's vivid, terrifying imagery of this unstoppable army isn't just about predicting a historical event. It leaves us with a much bigger, more timeless question about how we interpret these huge moments in history and what they might reveal about the very complex relationship between power, justice, and consequence.